There are people listening to me right now, and you look calm on the outside. Inside your mind has been under pressure. You're carrying things nobody can see: stress, pressure, questions, uncertainty. And if you're honest, you've been trying to hold it together. Something inside you feels tired. So let me ask you something. Can I be honest with you? One of the greatest strengths you will ever have in this life is not money, is not status, is not connections. It is peace, real peace. Not the kind that disappears when life gets hard, not the kind that depends on circumstances going your way. I'm talking about a deeper peace, a quiet confidence, a settled assurance, something inside you that does not shake, even when everything around you is shaking. Because real peace is not the absence of problems. Real peace is stability in the middle of problems. It's the kind of peace that hears bad news and doesn't fall apart. It's the kind of peace that loses something when it doesn't lose itself. It's the kind of peace where people look at your situation and they expect you to break. Somehow, you're still standing. And the truth is, that kind of peace does not come from this world, it comes from God. But here's the problem. As we grow in life, we also grow in awareness. When you were a child, you had peace naturally. You didn't care about bills, you didn't care about pressure, you didn't care about tomorrow. You just lived. You fell, you cried, and 5 minutes later, you were back to peace. But something changed. As you grew older, you became aware of problems, aware of responsibilities, aware of pressure, aware of uncertainty. And that awareness opened the door to something dangerous: anxiety, worry. And listen carefully. The greatest enemy of your peace is not your situation, is your anxiety about the situation. Because worry has a way of taking control of your mind. It starts small, then it grows. A situation shifts, and suddenly you're thinking too much. Something doesn't go as planned, and now your mind is racing. And before you know it, your peace is gone. And if we're being real, one of the biggest sources of worry in people's lives is money. Finances, the future. Will I have enough? Will things work out? Can I take care of my family? Will I be stable? These thoughts, they don't just visit your mind, they live there. And what's dangerous is you can be so focused on these things that you lose the ability to enjoy your life. You stop being grateful for what you already have because you're too busy worrying about what you don't have. You stop enjoying simple moments because your mind is trapped in future problems, and slowly your mind becomes divided. That's what anxiety does. It tears your mind in pieces. You're here physically, mentally, you're everywhere else. And the more you worry, more damage it does to your soul. But hear this clearly. God never designed you to live like that. It is not His will for you to live in constant stress, constant fear, constant anxiety. He wants you to live in peace. But there's a choice you have to make, because you cannot serve two masters. You cannot be ruled by fear and ruled by faith at the same time. You cannot be controlled by money and controlled by God at the same time. One will always take priority. And the truth is, for many people, it's not that they don't love God. It's that they are constantly overwhelmed by the pressure of life. And without realizing it, they allow worry to take control. But listen carefully. Worry does not fix anything. Worry does not change your situation. Worry does not add anything to your life. It only drains you. It steals your energy. It steals your focus. It steals your peace. And then God asks a powerful question. If worrying cannot change anything, then why are you giving it so much power? Think about that. Why are you allowing something that produces nothing to control everything? And this is where your perspective has to change. Because the same God who created everything is the same God who is watching over you. Look at creation. Birds wake up every day. They don't have savings. They don't have security. They don't have guarantees. Yet they are provided for. They move, they work, they live, and somehow they are sustained, not because they control everything, because God is in control. And if God can take care of something that cannot even pray, what makes you think he will not take care of you? You are more valuable. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. And here is the truth most people miss. Provision follows purpose. When you focus on what God has called you to do, he takes responsibility for what you need. But when you become obsessed with control, you lose peace, because you were never meant to control everything. You were meant to trust. And this is where everything changes. You have to make a decision. I refuse to live in worry. Not because life is easy, because God is faithful. I refuse to let anxiety control my mind. I refuse to let fear steal my peace. I refuse to break under pressure. Because when you make that decision, something shifts inside you. Peace begins to return. Strength begins to rise. Clarity begins to come back. And suddenly, what once felt overwhelming no longer has power over you. Because now you understand something deeper. God is in control. And if God is in control, then you don't have to live in fear. You can breathe again. You can rest again. You can trust again. Because no matter what you're facing, God is saying to you right now, I've got you. There are people watching this right now, and the reason you are exhausted is not because life is hard. It's because your mind never rests. Even when your body is sitting still, your thoughts are still running. You're thinking about tomorrow, thinking about bills, thinking about the future, thinking about problems that haven't even happened yet. And anxiety has a dangerous way of making imaginary battles feel real. That's why some of you are fighting battles in your mind every single day that don't even exist yet. You're stressed about conversations that haven't happened, scared of outcomes that haven't happened, broken over things that haven't even happened. And meanwhile, today is passing by. Peace is leaving your life while worry gains control over your thoughts. But hear me carefully. God never told you to carry tomorrow. He told you to trust him today. That's the battle. Trust, because worry is what happens when trust disappears. And some of you have trusted God with your salvation, not with your situation. You trust him with eternity, not with your finances. You trust him with heaven, not with your future. And that's why fear keeps returning. Because whatever area you stop trusting God in, anxiety will begin to grow there. Listen carefully. Fear always grows where trust is weak. That's why the enemy attacks your mind so aggressively, because if he can steal your peace, he can control your focus. And if he controls your focus, he can weaken your faith. Some of you don't even realize how much mental pressure you've been under lately. You wake up tired. You go to sleep tired. Even when nothing physical happened, you still feel drained. Why? Because anxiety is exhausting. Overthinking is exhausting. Trying to control everything is exhausting. And the crazy thing is, most of the things people worry about never even happen, yet they suffer emotionally as if it already happened. That's what anxiety does. It makes you suffer twice, once in your imagination and once in reality if it ever happens. And many people have become prisoners of thoughts, smiling in public, breaking in private, looking strong outside, falling apart inside. But today, God is trying to pull you out of that prison. He's trying to teach you something powerful. Peace is not found in having all the answers. Peace is found in knowing who is in control. There will always be uncertainty in life. There will always be moments you don't understand. There will always be seasons where things feel unclear. But faith means trusting God even when clarity is missing. That's real faith. Anybody can trust God when everything makes sense. But can you trust him when nothing makes sense? Can you trust him when the door closes? Can you trust him when people leave? Can you trust him when the money gets low? Can you trust him when the report scares you? Can you trust him when your prayers seem delayed? That is where real faith is revealed. And some of you are in a season right now where God is teaching you dependence. Because as long as you believe your security comes from money, You will always live afraid of losing it. As long as you believe your peace comes from people, you will always panic when they leave. As long as your confidence is built on temporary things, your peace will always be temporary. But when your trust is built on God, everything changes because God does not fail. People fail, systems fail, economies fail, emotions fail, but God remains faithful. And sometimes God will allow you to enter seasons where your resources become low just so you can discover that He is still enough. Some of the strongest people you will ever meet are not people who had easy lives. They are people who survived difficult seasons without losing their faith. And there are people listening right now who are tired of carrying pressure alone. You've been trying to fix everything yourself, trying to hold everything together yourself, trying to solve every problem yourself. And God is saying, why are you carrying something I never asked you to carry? You were not created to carry the weight of the world. You were created to walk with God. And there's a difference, because when you walk with God, you stop depending only on your own strength. You begin to understand that heaven is backing you, that God sees you, that God knows what you need before you even ask. And some of you need to hear this clearly. Just because God is silent does not mean God is absent. Just because you don't see movement does not mean He is not working. God can be preparing an answer while you are still worrying about the question. And many times, while you are panicking, God is already arranging provision. That's why worry becomes dangerous. Because worry makes you doubt the character of God. It causes you to act as if God abandoned you, when in reality, He's still holding everything together behind the scenes. Think about your own life. How many times did you panic before and somehow God still made a way? How many times did you think it was over? Somehow you survived. How many times did you think you wouldn't recover? And yet here you are listening to this message. That wasn't luck, that was grace. That was God sustaining you. And if He brought you through before, He can bring you through again. So stop speaking defeat over your future. Stop acting like your life is finished. Stop magnifying fear more than faith. There is still purpose on your life. There is still calling on your life. There is still breath in your body for a reason. And no matter how heavy this season feels, you are not alone in it. God is still with you in the middle of this battle. Some of you have spent so much time surviving that you forgot what peace even feels like. You've been in survival mode for so long, always fighting, always stressing, always carrying pressure, that your mind no longer knows how to rest. Even when things are calm, your thoughts still expect disaster, because anxiety trains your mind to fear peace. It convinces you that if you stop worrying, everything will fall apart. But hear me carefully. Your worry is not what keeps your life together. God is. And some of you are carrying responsibilities right now that feel bigger than your strength. You're trying to provide training to lead, trying to stay strong for everyone else. And secretly, you're scared of failing, scared of losing control, scared of not being enough. But listen, God never asked you to be enough by yourself. That's why His strength exists. Some of you keep asking God for answers while God is trying to build your trust, because faith is not just believing God can do something. Faith is remaining steady before He does it. Anybody can praise after the breakthrough, but can you trust Him before the breakthrough arrives? Can you worship while the answer is delayed? Can you remain peaceful while everything feels uncertain? That is maturity. That is spiritual growth. And some of you think the battle is financial. The real battle is spiritual, because money is not your greatest need. Peace is. You can have money and still be broken inside. You can have success and still be empty. You can have followers, attention, status, and still have no peace when you lay down at night. That's why so many people chase more, never feel satisfied. Because nothing outside of God can fully calm the soul. Nothing, not money, not relationships, not success, not achievements. The human soul was designed to rest in God, and until you understand that, you will keep searching for peace in temporary places. Some people are emotionally exhausted because they are trying to build security without God, and every time life shakes, their peace disappears. But when your trust is rooted in God, storms may shake your surroundings, they cannot destroy your foundation. That's the difference. And let me say something powerful to you. Enemy loves distracted minds. He loves people who are constantly anxious, because anxious people struggle to hear God clearly. Fear creates noise. Anxiety creates confusion. Overthinking clouds discernment. That's why peace is powerful, because peace gives clarity. Peace gives focus. Peace allows you to hear the voice of God again. And maybe that's why the enemy has been attacking your mind so heavily lately. Because if he can keep you overwhelmed, he can keep you distracted from purpose. Listen carefully. There are people right now delaying their destiny because they are too consumed with fear, too consumed with comfort, too consumed with what if. But purpose requires trust. You cannot walk by faith while demanding complete certainty. There will always be moments where you have to move without seeing the full picture. That's what faith has always been. And sometimes God will intentionally allow your situation to become uncomfortable, because comfort can make people spiritually lazy. Pressure reveals what you truly trust. Pressure exposes what controls your heart. When everything is stripped away, what do you still believe? When things don't go your way, do you still trust God? When prayers are delayed, do you still believe He is good? That's the real test. And many people quit too early because they mistake delay for denial. But just because God has not done it yet does not mean He will never do it. Timing matters, preparation matters, growth matters. There are blessings people pray for that they are not spiritually ready to handle yet. So God works on the person before releasing the promise, because if your character cannot sustain what your hands receive, blessing will destroy you. And some of you are frustrated with your current season without realizing this season is preparing you, building you, strengthening you, teaching you dependence, teaching you endurance, teaching you how to trust God when nothing feels stable. And one day, you're going to look back at this painful season and realize God was carrying you the entire time. You thought you were abandoned. You were being developed. You thought God forgot you. He was protecting you. You thought the delay was punishment. It was preparation. And hear me carefully. Some of the greatest miracles happen in seasons where people almost gave up. Right before breakthrough, people often feel the most exhausted. Right before the door opens, pressure increases. Right before healing comes, battle intensifies. That's why you cannot quit now. You've come too far to stop trusting God, too far to surrender to fear, too far to allow anxiety to destroy your peace. And maybe today, God brought you to this message not just to comfort you, to wake you up, to remind you that your life is bigger than your fear, your calling is bigger than your anxiety, and your future is not controlled by the economy, not controlled by people, not controlled by circumstances. Your future is still in the hands of God. And some of you need to understand this. Reason the pressure feels so intense lately is because your mind has been fighting battles your spirit was never designed to carry alone. You were not built to live disconnected from God. That's why when people drift away from prayer, drift away from worship, drift away from the presence of God, anxiety slowly becomes louder. Because the farther you move from peace, easier it is for fear to control your thoughts. And fear is dangerous because fear changes how you see everything. Fear makes opportunities look impossible. Fear makes small problems look massive. Fear makes you question yourself, question your future, question your worth, question God. That's why the enemy attacks your thoughts first, because if he can control your thinking, he can influence your direction. Everything starts in the mind. That's why some people are physically free, mentally imprisoned, smiling externally while internally drowning in pressure. And the scary part is, many people become so used to anxiety that they think it's normal. But constant fear was never God's design for your life. Constant panic was never your destiny. You were created for peace, not fake peace, not temporary peace, not peace that disappears when life becomes uncomfortable. Real peace, the kind of peace that survives storms, the kind of peace that remains steady in uncertainty, the kind of peace where even when tears fall from your eyes, faith still remains in your heart. That kind of peace only comes from trusting God deeply, and trust is difficult when life hurts. Let's be honest. It's easy to trust God when doors are opening, easy to trust God when money is flowing, easy to trust God when prayers are answered quickly. But can you trust Him in silence? Can you trust Him when heaven feels quiet? Can you trust Him when you're doing everything right? Life still feels difficult? That's where faith becomes real. Because mature faith does not depend on emotions. Mature faith depends on conviction. And conviction says, even if I don't understand this season, God is still faithful. Some of you are waiting for all fear to disappear before you move forward. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward while trusting God anyway. And maybe that's your next step. Not having every answer, not controlling every outcome, but choosing to trust God again, choosing to believe again, choosing to breathe again, choosing to stop feeding anxiety every day. Because some people unknowingly feed their fear constantly. They replay negative thoughts all day, replay bad memories, replay worst case scenarios, and whatever you repeatedly feed will grow stronger in your life. That's why you must guard your mind carefully. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear deserves your agreement. Some thoughts need to be rejected immediately. And maybe that's what you need to declare today. I will not allow fear to dominate my life anymore. I will not allow anxiety to speak louder than God. I will not spend every day expecting disaster, because many people are suffering from things that haven't even happened. And while they are worrying about tomorrow, they are missing the beauty of today. Listen carefully. Life moves quickly, and anxiety has a way of stealing moments you can never get back. Moments with family, moments with people you love, moments where you should have been present. Mentally, you were somewhere else, thinking, overthinking, carrying fear. And one day people realize they spent years worrying instead of living. That's why peace matters, because peace allows you to live again, to breathe again, to smile again, to enjoy life again. And maybe you don't realize it yet. God has already carried you through things that should have destroyed you. There were moments you thought you would never recover from, moments you thought would break you permanently, but somehow you survived. Not because you were strong enough, but because God sustained you. And if He sustained you then, He can sustain you now. You have to stop underestimating the faithfulness of God. He sees every tear, every silent prayer, every sleepless night, every burden you carry privately. Nothing about your pain is hidden from Him. And while you are panicking about the future, God is already standing in your tomorrow, already preparing what you cannot see yet, already making ways you don't even know about. That's why worry becomes unnecessary when trust grows deeper, because eventually you realize God has never failed you, delighted you sometimes, corrected you sometimes, protected you in ways you didn't understand sometimes, but never abandoned you, never. And there are people listening to this right now who feel emotionally tired because they've been trying to carry life without surrender, trying to control every outcome, trying to force every answer, trying to manage every detail. But surrender changes everything, because surrender says, God, I trust you more than I trust my fear. God, even when I don't understand this season, maybe still believe you are working. And that kind of faith brings peace back into the soul, not because the storm instantly disappears, because you finally realize God is bigger than the storm. And there are moments in life where God will intentionally allow you to reach the end of yourself so you can finally discover the depth of his strength. Because as long as you believe you can handle everything alone, you will keep exhausting yourself. But when you finally surrender, you discover something powerful. God was never asking you to carry the weight alone. He was asking you to trust him with it. And maybe that's why you heard this message today, not by accident, not by coincidence, but because God knew your mind was tired. He knew the pressure you've been carrying. He knew about the silent battles nobody else can see. The nights you smiled in front of people while secretly fighting fear alone. The moments you almost gave up. The moments you questioned your future. The moments anxiety became so loud that peace felt impossible to find. But listen carefully, God is calling you back to peace. Not temporary peace, not fake peace, real peace. The kind of peace that survives storms. The kind of peace that remains steady even when life feels uncertain. And maybe your breakthrough is not just financial. Maybe your breakthrough is mental. Maybe God is healing your mind before he changes your situation, because a peaceful mind is powerful. A peaceful spirit hears God clearly. A peaceful heart trusts deeply. And from this moment forward, you must stop giving fear authority over your life. Stop allowing anxiety to control your future. Stop speaking defeat over yourself. You have survived too much to live defeated now. Look at yourself. You're still here, still breathing, still standing after everything you've faced. God still carried you. And if he carried you before, he will carry you again. So breathe again, trust again, pray again, hope again, because your story is not over. God is still working behind the scenes. Doors are still opening. Provision is still coming. Healing is still possible. Peace is still available. And no matter what this season looks like, you are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not fighting alone. God is with you right now in this very moment. And before this video ends, AB needs you to make a decision. No more living controlled by fear. No more allowing anxiety to dominate your thoughts. No more expecting disaster every day. From this day forward, you will trust God deeper. You will protect your peace. You will walk by faith, and you will remember this. If God takes care of the birds, if God takes care of the fields, if God sustains creation itself, then surely he will take care of you. This is Philip Anthony Cumming, and I pray peace covers your mind tonight. I pray strength rises inside of you again. And I pray you leave this message remembering one powerful truth. God has not failed you, and he never will.